How's it? This is Dominic Oliver, and you're watching Joburg Today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Joburg Today. I am your host, Leroy Viaggi. It's still not clear who launched the WannaCry ransomware, but one thing's for sure, that is cyber war and cyber defense are becoming a reality, as scientists in South Africa study this field to understand it a lot better.
Despite all its benefits, the internet brought on cyber war and the need for cyber defense. And with the mushrooming uptake of miniature computers called smartphones by you and me, the threat is just so much more personal.
Cyber attacks on African countries only became a reality with the arrival of broadband internet on the continent around 2009.
This is caused by, of course, the growth in connectivity and the fact that our infrastructure is underdeveloped.
Unfortunately, up till now, there's only a little pockets of cyber defense research. Most of the companies and industry actually focus on intrusion detection and protection, but not real cyber defense companies. As far as we know, there's no antivirus companies that set up in Africa.
The Cyber Defense Research Group of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research is the oldest such group in Africa, doing work for both military and civilian purposes.
We have to support the military to set up these systems to be able to defend the country from attacks. But the problem in South Africa is actually the cyber crime and attacks against citizens for cyber crime.
You know, we find similar problems in Russia, in China, in the US. But research seems to suggest that there's a strong correlation between the growth of the economy and the cybersecurity attacks.
We have very little universities who actually train cybersecurity specialists. We have no CERTs or national security centers that actually address if there's a real concern happening right now. It means we are being targeted and we don't have enough people to address it.
Although finally published late last year, the Cyber Crimes and Cybersecurity Bill has been criticized and it's not signed into law yet. The government and the CSIR also launched the Virtual National Cybersecurity Hub a year ago. The Cyber Defense Research Group runs various other projects.
One of the most impressive projects is Cyber Protect. This system has mainly two main objectives. The first being that we scan the internet for vulnerable hardware, vulnerable to certain cyber attacks. This information is then displayed on a map where you can filter down and you can see more information on each hardware being displayed. The second objective is where we search the internet for personal identifiable information, also known as PII. So we take all of this information and then also on a map, a world map, we plot all of the websites responsible for leaking those type of information.
It is not a run-of-the-mill job. If you have a mind that likes to think outside of the box and look at issues from different angles, it's a perfect career for you to go into.
For now, the idea of a South African cyber defense force may sound a bit geeky, but the CSIR Cyber Defense Research Group is laying the foundation for a critical future security need. Marisa de Klerk, Joburg Today.
My name is Gareth Cliff and you're watching Joburg Today.
Be a part of the conversation by liking our Facebook page. That's joburgtoday.tv. Follow the real trend on our Twitter account at Joburg Today. Fortunately enough, not many reports have been made of the WannaCry ransomware currently terrorizing millions of computers around the world, with the kill switch having been activated to stop what is being considered the world's largest cyber attack.
We've heard reports that there are new variants available that does not use that specific website as a kill switch anymore. That means that the attack is in fact still continuing, and people and companies and countries should still be aware of the potential impact that this specific ransomware has on the networks and their computers.
Just for the sake of clarity, explain to us exactly what this WannaCry ransomware attack was all about.
All right, so ransomware is a family of malware. Now, malware is any type of software that does nefarious things on your computer. Ransomware specifically does not want to destroy data. In fact, what it does is when you're infected with ransomware, it will encrypt the data, meaning you cannot get access to it anymore. And then they ask for a ransom to be paid. So you will now have to go and pay some person which you don't know a certain amount of money, and then they will give you a key, hopefully, that will then unencrypt your data, making it readable again.
So it's computers that use Microsoft specifically that are vulnerable to this?
Okay, so WannaCry specifically, this specific variant is only attacking Microsoft Windows operating systems. That includes Windows XP machines, Windows 8, Windows 7, the new Windows 10 versions. They all has the specific vulnerability in, and if you haven't patched your computer since March, then potentially your computer is vulnerable for this specific variant of ransomware. A patch is a piece of software that as soon as a vulnerability gets detected by Microsoft or any other software company, they will then write a piece of code, like a small little program that will try and close that hole up. So think of it as a hole that exists in your road, and you try to fill it up with cement. You're patching the cement, you're patching your road again. That's what they try to do.
And how does one know that one's been a target of this?
It's going to be fairly easy. You will try and access any of your documents. That includes things like pictures, your music, your spreadsheets, photographs on your computer, and you will get a message saying that your data has been locked away or has been encrypted. You should please pay a certain amount of $300, I think, worth in Bitcoins within the next, and they will give you some time frame, normally about 8 hours or 12 hours. And if you don't pay it within that time, then the amount goes up. The interesting thing is that your computer doesn't stop working. It in fact starts up, you can log in, but you just cannot access anything inside.
It makes sense to have backups, wouldn't it?
In fact, that's the only real way to potentially get your system back to its state, was to restore from a backup.
Tell us a little bit more about the actual targets, the victims so far.
We've seen reports coming from Europe and the Far East Asia, well, mostly Russia. Kaspersky, for instance, reported one of the biggest countries being hit was Russia itself, but we don't know much about the actual attacks there. The media there has been very silent in terms of what companies have been attacked. What we do know is there's been widespread reports of attacks in the United Kingdom, in Germany, specifically hospitals, the National Rail in Germany, the companies like Nissan, Renault, for instance, they have all been attacked, and they, for instance, in the United Kingdom went so bad that they had to show patients away to other hospitals.
Certainly, this is a big wake-up call for Microsoft.
The big concern about this was that this vulnerability that is now being exploited was a vulnerability that already existed in Windows XP. Now, Windows XP was, of course, a very well-known and well-used operating system, and in fact, most, let's call it embedded systems, which are the things that typically you find in the medical environment, in hospitals, and even point-of-sale systems run underneath all of that runs, for instance, Windows XP. And then the National Security Agency in the United States, they got hold of this vulnerability, but they kept it secret. And they wanted to use it as part of their toolbox of potential hacking into targets that they would want to attack. The unfortunate part was that they then in turn got attacked, and this tool set got stolen and made available, of course, on the internet, where anybody can now use these tools and the vulnerabilities.
Some experts are saying that there's another attack on the cards. What are the important lessons learned here in this latest attack?
The biggest thing that we can learn from this is that governments should come to the party. When they detect vulnerabilities, they should not keep it as part of their own arsenal of attack of tools. They should make it available this knowledge available to the vendors so that the vendors can potentially patch these vulnerabilities long before they get into a situation like this. Ransomware is not only Microsoft vendor specific. We've seen attacks on Mac OS X, Android operating systems. We haven't seen for iPhone yet, so maybe that one is a bit safe at this stage, but not yet, I would think. So the problem with ransomware is it can get delivered in any form. The way in which you can protect yourself potentially is by making sure you've got your backups in place and that you have patched up to the latest versions of the Microsoft patches.
How vulnerable is South Africa?
I think the problem in South Africa is a lot of companies in industry are small companies and they do not have the typical knowledge to know how to safely work with their computers or make sure that their computers are successfully patched. So they are very much reliant on so-called IT support people, which isn't always there for them to be able to assist. Big corporates, of course, normally takes it a little bit more seriously, and they are normally a little bit, let's call it, more proactive, but still the skills shortage that we find in South Africa does make South Africa a very promising and attractive target for these attackers. And we have seen that cyber attacks do cost South Africa quite a lot of money each year. In fact, it's up there with probably top 10 countries in the world of how much it actually costs South Africa.
Hi, I'm Sophie Ndaba, and you are watching Joburg Today.
Well, that's it for today's show, but if you want to know more about what's happening in and around Johannesburg, you need to check out our playlist. From me, Leroy, and the guys behind the scenes, till next time.